Well, good afternoon, members. Even as we wait for other panelists to join us, we can take this opportunity to introduce each other. Be free, you can use the video and turn your mic on and just go ahead and introduce yourself. Thank you. I'll start by introducing myself, and of course, my name is Jenny Audi, and I'm the country representative YPARD Kenya, and I'm going to be your co-moderator for this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Janice. For purposes of being orderly, I think I'll call one by one and they will go on and introduce themselves. Gideon Kathuri, kindly go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening to Gideon. How are you?
Good. My name is Gideon Kaduri. I am following up this section from Kitui South.
You're most welcome.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay. Alex. Alex,
sorry?
Can you kindly go ahead and introduce yourself? Alex, can you introduce yourself?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Alex.
Yes, greetings everyone. My name is Alex Cheyune. I work with Afri Farmers Market, working full fruits and vegetables in East Africa. I'll be glad to hear from the panelists about the food waste topic and how we can develop this sector in our region. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex Cheyune. Elvis Omondi. Elvis Omondi, kindly introduce yourself. Elvis, kindly introduce yourself. Okay. I'll go to Charlotte. Charlotte, kindly introduce yourself. Charlotte, go ahead, introduce yourself. Okay. Elvis, go ahead then. You can introduce yourself, no problem.
Good afternoon, everyone. My
Good afternoon.
My name is Elvis Omondi. I work with Awiko Poultry Farm, and I'm glad to be part of this meeting this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, you're most welcome. Odongo Jonathan, kind of go ahead and introduce yourself. Odongo Jonathan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm Odongo Otule Jonathan from Uganda, a co-founder of Greenfields Uganda Limited, a company looking to integrate technology adoption in the livestock value chain. So our interest is on the food waste. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're most welcome. Then Boniface Okwero, Kylo, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon all. I'm Boniface Okwero. I'm from Kenya. I work closely with Kibuye Market Waste Management, CBO. I am currently working on a project on sanitation. I'm specialist in sustainable waste management. So looking forward to hear the discussion ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Boniface. I think we shall have only like two people to three people introduce themselves. Then I'll hand over to Daniel to take us through the rest of the steps. Luasa Ronald, kindly go ahead, introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, Arjuna. My name is Ronald. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Munachalo Agrofresh. At Munachalo Agrofresh, we are reducing post-harvest losses through our solar-powered cold storage technology that has got the ability of extending the shelf life of perishable crops from 2 days to 21 days, hence reducing over 60% of the smallholder farmers' losses. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to learn from what you guys are doing from your end. Thank you. I'm from Uganda.
Thank you. You're most welcome. Maybe final, I will have Emmanuel Sandy. Emmanuel Sandy, kindly go ahead and introduce yourself. Emmanuel Sandy, kindly introduce yourself. Okay.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandy Manan from Anjana Projects, and for us, we deal with water, solar pumping, irrigation, and water supply. So I'm here to hear from everyone. Thank you.
Okay, you're most welcome. Now that everyone is on board, allow me to invite Daniel to take on from here. The rest we can add on in the due course. Thank you very much, Daniel. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Tadeo. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone who is attending this webinar. My name is Daniel Shabochiseka, local country representative for YPARD Uganda, and I'm here to take you to the other step of our webinar. I'd like to confirm if Jean is already here. All right. Jean is not yet here. So at this point, I'd like to first of all introduce to you a gentleman who is going to be taking us through the gaps in the food system contributing to food loss and waste management in the Kenya context.
Okay, as my colleague comes back on board, I don't know if you can now see me. My name is Arjuna Tadeo, the co-country representative of YPARD Uganda chapter. I really take this opportunity to welcome you all. And as my colleague Daniel joins in, who will become our main host of today, I think for purposes of saving time, I'll go ahead and give my welcome remarks as Daniel gets set. I'd really want to welcome everyone here. I'd like to thank Janice. Janice is the country representative of Kenya. I really appreciate you for accepting this initiative of allowing us to work with you. Usually, some people want to work in isolation, but I really appreciate that you've taken your time and effort to allow us work together. So, Janice, thank you very much, and I credit you for that. And I believe this is the very beginning. And then to the colleagues of YPARD Kenyan chapter, who are on this webinar, you are equally most welcome from the Ugandan counterparts. And also my colleagues from Uganda, I really welcome you all. Thank you for taking your time and being part of this initiative. I believe this is just the beginning of us working together. And I know we shall be working on a number of issues together, both virtually and physically. I was imagining what Kenyans go through. Of recent, people have seen much of our maize being rejected in Kenya. The reality in Kenya, some was rejected in Sudan, and the reality is most of that food that is rejected is equally coming to waste. So you can imagine food from Uganda is being rejected just by our neighbors in Kenya. All of that food is going to waste. But unfortunately, many of us have not taken the interest to see what is causing that waste to come on board. Many of us are just crying about the waste, but we are not trying to find out solutions to that. So this webinar is clearly aimed at finding solutions to the food waste that is already happening. And I believe within the shortest period of time, you will know key initiatives that have been put in place in order to overcome this food waste crisis and food loss. To the colleagues that are already in that department, I know it will be of benefit to you. Just for your information, this meeting is being recorded and it will be shared on all our social media platforms. Please feel free to leave in case you feel it is not okay for people to record the meeting or for privacy reasons, because we understand some of our colleagues have not been able to take part in this meeting. So we want them to still have an overview of what we have discussed. So I welcome you all and I wish all of us wonderful deliberations in this meeting. Daniel, I hope you're back. Kindly take on and we can start our meeting officially. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tadeo, for that amazing opening remarks for our webinar. In addition to what you said, I want to give a recognition from some colleagues from Namibia who have managed to join in, and also some from Tanzania. At this point, allow me invite Janice to introduce herself so that we can get on to our first panelist. Janice, please take it on.
Thank you so much, Daniel and Ajuna, for the amazing introduction ahead of me introducing myself. And also thank you so much to our participants and panelists. I take this opportunity honorably to again say that my name is Janice Audi, the country representative, YPARD Kenya. And it's amazing to co-host and co-moderate this super amazing webinar. I look forward to having a fruitful engagement throughout. To our participants, you are going to meet the best and the best of our panelists. We promise you that. Over to you, Daniel.
Right. At this point, allow me welcome our very first panelist. Is a gentleman from Kenya. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Agricultural Biotechnology and a Master's in Pathology. He's an Executive Director at Kibuye Market Waste Management and a circular economy specialist, as well as a member of the Secretariat at MIA Yawek Association. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, allow me welcome none other than Mr. Simon Meso. Please take it on.
Thank you, the host. And hi, everyone. My name is Simon Meso. I'm the team lead at Kibuye Waste Management, CBO. And let me take this time to congratulate everyone who has made it to this very, very important webinar. to discuss very, very serious issues. One thing I would like maybe an introductory to explain about myself is I'm a person that is passionate about what he does, and I always embrace team playing. So thank you all, and I wish to welcome you as we address matters food waste and food loss and food waste. So I have technical problems in terms of sharing my screen, but I will go through my session. So in case of any question, just post, and maybe the moderators will guide on the same. So I want to look on the perspective on the situation of food loss and waste in the Kenyan perspective. And most of my presentation will be limited or centered around Kisumu, because it's where I come from, and particularly most of the waste, which are food waste and food waste, which are organic wastes from the biggest, the largest open air market in East and Central Africa, which is Kibuye market. So as a background to this, Kenya, which is like any other developing country, is faced with the triple challenges of food insecurity, food loss, and food waste, and climate change too. Kenya is also signed to several global commitments aimed at achieving global development targets and goals that are necessary to provide a roadmap for food system transformations. So as a country, leveraging on the following, which I will name, will help in the development of policies required to transform the Kenyan food system. One, a big impact should be driven towards natural resource governance, issues of governance and institution, education and knowledge, use of technology, enhancement of trade, and also finance towards food systems. So on the current situation of solid waste in Kisumu, it's estimated that more than 500 tons of waste is generated per day in Kisumu, and roughly 75 to 76% is organic. And the organic mainly they are food wastes. Of the 500 tons per day waste generated in Kisumu, only about 40% makes it to the landfills. The rest are uncollected and either dumped illegally by the roadside or other areas within the city. This contributes to massive social, economic, and environmental problems. So Kisumu food system experiences a number of challenges, which include inadequate local food production. We have inefficiencies in distribution, informality in food retailing systems, and also the lack of energy efficiencies and methods for food preparation. And it's notably that despite Kisumu having the highest food poverty intensity, it experiences food losses and wastages in different stages of the value chain. The reason, the biggest question we ask ourselves is why? Why is Kisumu food deficient? Because Kisumu is one of the cities in Kenya and is regarded as a consumer city. The reason being that over 65% of the city population resides in the informal settlements, notably the Obunga, Manyata, Nyalenda, among others, which are the informal settlements within Kisumu. And the informal settlements are crippled with issues to do with inadequate infrastructure, low service provision, and definitely food insecure. So there are a number of impacts that the food loss and wastes has impacted on the residents and maybe the environment and the climate in Kisumu. And notably, all resources that are used during food production go to waste when it comes to food loss and food waste. And this will include the water, land, energy, labor, and capital used during the production. There are a number of environmental and social prices that the community have to pay, and it leads to the emission of very, very serious greenhouse gases, which notably one of them is the methane gas, which is 16 times more hazardous than the normal CO2. There is a reduction in food availability, aggravated water scarcity, increased food imports. Food wastes in landfills have been noted to be responsible for roughly more than 8% of the global emissions. So this can really be appreciated as some of the many of the biggest challenges towards climate change. There are a number of food loss and food wastes among the value chains within the Kisumu settlement, and the food losses, which are basically the edible food masses that are discarded. So notably in Kisumu, at the production and post-harvest stages of the value chain, Kisumu and largely the western parts of the country experience food losses in terms of floods, pests, and contaminations. There are also issues related to loss through inadequate climate control. And this could be witnessed during very, very extreme high temperatures that cause most of the food to be bad or to be spoiled. Then it's also related to natural shrinkage, which is the loss of moisture. On the processing bit, there are fewer food processing industries or facilities within Kisumu, so it's not a major problem during the processing stage along the value chain. Food on transportation, most small holder farmers and producers commonly use the public transport, which is coupled with poor or improper packaging that leads to physical damage and contamination of the food products. And eventually, this leads to food losses. At the market stage, there's inadequate food storage and preservation facilities, and this is the major cause of food loss in Kisumu. Luckily, recently we saw one of our cold room put up in Kisumu, but the capacity is very low. So rarely it is insignificant, but there are calls that bigger facilities for food storage and preservation is a requirement. So at the consumption stage, when it is on the plate or on the table, notably in Kisumu at household levels, the food loss is very low, and this could be attributed to the high poverty levels, which are premeditated by the low or small quantities that are purchased in terms of food on a daily basis. There is also the use of leftovers, notably in the community where I come from. When ugali is left, then it could be reused. The other time it can be broken into smaller pieces and then reused. So that is also evident at the households. Then food waste converters at the consumption stage, there's the application of food waste converters. And for a good example of this are poultry. So the little food wastes that are available are consumed by the waste converters and like the poultry. At the consumption stage, the highest waste, food waste or food loss is propagated by the restaurants, which is patronized by middle to upper income segments. And also this produces a substantial amount of food waste to the system. So there are a number of valid conclusions, notable conclusions that I would wish to pass across to help in fixing a number of gaps that are found within the Kenya and by large Kisumu system. So notably, there's limited information or data on the causes, volumes, and hotspots in the food value chain, which remains a big challenge that requires collective action and reporting transparency. Nevertheless, many of the actions required to reduce food loss and wastes are already formulated. The challenge is transferring the knowledge to where it is needed within the government, the business sector, and the households. Food practice works to tackle food loss and wastes in a number of ways. And these include scoping the extent of the challenge, testing possible approaches and solutions, and advocating for actions across sectors, and particularly promoting collaboration between government, business people, and other stakeholders. So it is widely agreed that effective reduce
Simon, we have lost you. At some point, Simon has got a network problem, but one thing for sure is that while the panelists are addressing us, the best thing is to leave all your questions into the Q&A so that we will be asking the questions at the end of the after every panelist has spoken. Simon was left with a few minutes to wrap up his discussion, but I think we will give him some other time so that he can finalize with what he was saying. At this point, I'm going to invite another speaker that will take us through as Simon sorts his network issue. This particular gentleman is going to address us about the gaps in the food system contributing to food loss and waste in the Ugandan perspective. This gentleman is the CEO and founder of CEO Value Technologies, a supply chain technology company that helps farmers, retailers, and exporters to increase the marketable shelf life of fresh produce at room temperature using organic plant-based coating called Fresh. This gentleman is none other than Mr. Jean Paul Nageri. Please, Jean, take it on from now. You are most welcome.
Good afternoon to you all. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'd like to start by talking about my story and how I ended up in the post-harvest industry. So a few years ago, my father planted over 1 acre of matoke. Matoke is also known as plantain. He planted over 1 acre, and his plan was to harvest his entire garden in the month of December. Usually around the time of December, prices are very high for matoke in certain parts of Eastern Uganda. And so he got in touch with middlemen. Middlemen are basically individuals who come and buy produce from farmers and then sell to markets. So my father got in touch with these middlemen and they promised to come and buy his entire garden. So when that day arrived, something remarkable happened. Unfortunately, they didn't show up. So my father had so many bunches of matoke that he'd harvested. And so he waited. But it was extremely hot on that day. And so the matoke started to ripen. They started to ripen. So towards the end of the day, at around 5 p.m., he just looked at me and said, you know what, son? Let's just try and eat what we can, and then the balance we'll share with your uncles and your other relatives. He was extremely devastated that the middleman never showed up. And so that was my first worst experience with food spoilage. And my father was really saddened to the point that he asked me, wait, did you study agriculture? Isn't there not any technology or method you guys have come up with that can help me from never having to go through this again? So I told him, Dad, the solutions that exist currently are maybe we can use solar refrigeration. But then he said, I can't afford solar refrigeration. That's expensive for me. Give me something else. Then I was like, maybe you could try chemical fungicides, but chemical fungicides have harmful health side effects. So he said, you know what? Go back to campus, go back to university and find me a solution. And that's exactly what I did. I went to Uganda Christian University and I spent 4 years doing research on how to solve the issue of food spoilage. The methods that currently exist include things like atmospheric packaging, specialized rooms, cold refrigeration, and the use of synthetic substances. But my main aim was to understand how is nature solving the issue of food spoilage? What has nature developed that we can mimic in order to be able to solve this problem? And so I started studying nature and I realized something. There are certain fruits and vegetables that last longer than others. So for example, if you have, say, an orange, it lasts longer than an avocado. So my thinking was, what is it that the orange has learned through evolution and time that the avocado hasn't quite figured out? So I started studying the orange and I noticed something. The surface of an orange is extremely oily. It's extremely oily and sort of waxy. So I decided to study these oils and I discovered that the oils on the surface of oranges have an ability to control the rate at which oxygen gets in and moisture gets out. And that's the reason why an orange is able to last longer than, say, an avocado. So for me, it was like, how are these oils arranged on the surface of the orange that allow it to last longer than, say, an avocado? What if I got these oils and applied them onto the skin of an avocado? What would happen? And that's exactly what I did. I spent time trying to understand the kind of oils that are on the surface and the different properties that they have. And I was able to identify these oils and then do the ensuing extraction processes to get and identify the oils. And when I tried applying them onto the surface of avocados, I was able to extend the shelf life from just 3 days to a week at that moment in time. And so I thought I was lucky. And I tried doing several trials, and it kept on working. So I went back to the farm, my father's farm, and I was able to extend the shelf life of his matoke plantain from just 3 days to a week at room temperature without putting in the fridge. But at that time, I had the product more of in an oil form. And so he said, look, son, I'm a farmer. I don't want to be measuring liquids, 5.5 milliliters. It's too complicated. I don't have, get for me something in powdered form that I can easily mix with water and then spray. So I turned the oils into a powdered form, which can easily be mixed with water. And once it's sprayed on produce, it forms a very, very thin, invisible coating. So at that time, it was more like, how can I get this solution to other farmers like my father? And that's when the idea of starting a business came in, because through a business, one can impact great change. So that was the birth of Seal Valley Technologies. We managed to scale up the technology. We actually have a patent that we're processing at ARIPO level. We're currently working with some of the largest exporters in Uganda. And we're now certified through the UNBS, and we've also had our product tested in Germany. The materials we use come from food. So we're using food to preserve food. And our materials are organic in nature. We don't have any chemical residues that are present in the manufacturing process or on our product itself. So Kafresh is an organic plant-based coating. And once it's sprayed onto produce, it has the ability to significantly extend the shelf life. We've extended the shelf life of Asila tomatoes to over 120 days at room temperature. We've extended the shelf life of Roma tomatoes to over 6 months at room temperature. We also recently tackled a major challenge in the export industry, which is the garden egg, also known as Ntula. Ntula or garden eggs normally ripen. Once they're harvested, they go bad in 1 to 2 days. They go from being white to a very bright orange. And so we've been able to extend their shelf life to 10 days at room temperature. So if you harvest your garden egg today, you have 10 days to sell it to any market of choice. We've also extended the shelf life of Hass avocados to over 30 days at room temperature, where we're able to maintain the quality and freshness. And we've also extended the shelf life of yams. We have a variety called big yams. They normally go bad in 3 days, but we've been able to extend the shelf life to over 60 days at room temperature. And we've been able to open up markets in Germany, allowing exporters now to be able to comfortably export their yams. And we're looking at a situation where we can now use sea freight. With sea freight, we're able to lower the costs of transporting this export produce. But one thing I noticed in this journey of mine is that food spoilage in Uganda occurs at different levels. The highest level is at the farm gate. Once the farmer harvests his or her produce, he or she loses over 50% of what they harvest. So after that, the produce is then transported to the markets. And in that transportation cycle, the produce is exposed to harsh conditions, poor road infrastructure, which further leads to mechanical damaging of the produce. And then once it gets to the market, it's further exposed to more difficult environmental conditions, such as exposure to sunshine, very high temperatures, poor handling, which further increases the spoilage. And then finally, in the consumer's home, they've already got produce that has gone through so many levels of being affected by different environmental conditions that they don't really have enough time to consume the produce. So once we use Kafresh at the farmer's level, our product stays on the produce throughout the entire value chain. So Kafresh benefits the entire value chain, ensuring that the farmer has more time to sell his produce. The traders or the middlemen who buy from the farmers have more time to distribute the produce. the vendors in the markets have more time to sell their produce. And finally, consumers at home have more time to consume the produce, which means they can buy in bulk, saving money, and can benefit from the nutritional gains that the produce is able to maintain thanks to our solution. So we currently have a just-in-time business model. We have a warehouse where produce is brought in, and we have machinery where the produce is coated with our solution. It is dried and then can be distributed to any location. Just allow me to kindly share a video with you on my screen. Just give me a second. Can you see my screen? Daniel?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm going to play for you a brief video of our business and how we do the application of Kafresh for our customers and farmers. So as you can see, this is the video of garden eggs that are being sprayed with our solution. This is a spray coating machine that applies Kafresh in a spray form. Kafresh is in powdered form. We mix it with water and then we spray on the produce. So these are garden eggs which are being sprayed Kafresh. Garden eggs have a shelf life of only 1 to 2 days, but once Kafresh is applied, we're able to extend the shelf life to 8 days at room temperature, where they're able to maintain their freshness and whiteness, as you can see in the video. So this process takes just a few minutes. We're able to preserve 1 ton of produce per hour. That's the current capacity we have. And so it's more of a just-in-time business. You drive in with your produce, you spray it, and then this is a dryer where you can see the garden egg being dried with our Kafresh solution applied into them. So it forms a very thin layer. You're not able to see it, you're not able to taste it, it has no smell or color, very thin and invisible. But what it does is to slow down the rate at which oxygen gets in and moisture gets out. And that's what helps to considerably extend the shelf life of the produce. As you can see in the video, you can't even tell that there was something applied onto it. Kafresh is a very, very thin layer, but it ensures that the fruit is able to maintain its freshness and quality. Allow me also to share with you another video still, but this one is for tomatoes, just to show you that we're able to apply our solution on varying kinds of produce. So this is the same application, but now for tomatoes. So with this variety of Asila tomatoes, we've been able to extend the shelf life to over 120 days. So we're able to maintain the freshness and quality over a period of time. And our aim now is that we could export tomatoes to foreign countries by sea freight without necessarily having to use air freight, which lowers our cost of exporting and allows us to gain considerable revenue. If Kenya has a shortage of tomatoes, we could potentially export tomatoes to Kenya, and vice versa. If Uganda has a shortage of tomatoes, Kenya could export their tomatoes to us, knowing that we have all this time to consume the food, which is currently not the case, as tomatoes go bad in just a few weeks or a few days, depending on the variety. So as you can see, our machinery coats the tomatoes and forms a very uniform layer. Our product is certified, it's food grade. We don't use any chemical ingredients, ensuring that we're able to not have any challenges when it comes to when we're exporting or when through border regulations and checks. For the opportunity to share our innovation with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. We really appreciate. Daniel, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much, Paul. I'm so overwhelmed by the way you did your research and the innovation that you've put in. Congratulations. At this point, I want to remind everyone attending that while you're sending in your questions, be sure to add whom you're directing your question to. And number two, yes. And then, yeah, be sure to add a name of whom you're directing your question to. And if it's a generic question, that's when you can just put in that question. At this point, I'm going to allow Mr. Simon Meso to finalize with his presentation so that we can go to our next speaker. Please, Simon, you can take it on from here. Well, it seems that Simon's network issue has consistently persisted, and we'll give him time when he manages to rejoin, a few 2-3 minutes. At this point, let me invite Janice back so that she can invite our keynote speaker of this event. Janice, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. It's been so insightful hearing from Meso and like a fresh, innovative solutions. I can't wait to have a taste of your product. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and honor to bring on board our regional coordinator, Mr. Kofi Akwai, YPARD Africa Regional Coordinator. Kofi, if you hear me, the virtual floor is yours.